5 years had passed when I finally saw my ex-husband again, the man I had once believed was my soulmate. He had discovered me having an affair with my boss, Michael. The years that followed were long and painful, with everything in my life falling apart. Ethan had walked in on Michael and me, and the betrayal was so deep that it not only destroyed him, but also shattered the life we had built together over 10 years. I can still picture Ethan, standing there, speechless, his hands shaking as he held the takeout bag he had brought for me. His eyes lost their light when he saw us in such an intimate moment. He didn't shout or rage. He just stared at me, as if I were a stranger, before turning and walking away. The divorce came soon after. Ethan refused to speak to me, and I couldn't blame him. I signed the papers in tears, knowing I had no right to ask for anything, our home, our memories, or even him. Afterward, I left town, unable to bear the weight of my mistakes or the judgment of our mutual friends. For the next few years, I worked on rebuilding my life. Therapy became my sanctuary, a place where I could examine the cracks in my marriage and confront the parts of myself that had led to my infidelity. It wasn't just the cheating that I struggled with. It was the loneliness, the fear of not being enough, and the desperate craving for validation from Michael. I had destroyed the most meaningful part of my life, and no amount of self-reflection could undo the damage. The guilt gnawed at me every day. But the hardest part wasn't the affair itself. It was realizing just how deeply Ethan had loved me, in a way I had never truly appreciated. He had been patient, kind, and supportive. He was my rock, the one person I could rely on for everything. Yet, I betrayed him. I turned my back on everything we had worked for, and Michael was nothing more than a fleeting escape in a life that felt hollow. In the end, that brief relief cost me the love of my life. When I received the wedding invitation, I almost didn't open it. It was from Sarah, one of Ethan's closest friends, who had always been kind to me. Her name brought back memories of dinners, trips, and laughter that felt like they belonged to another lifetime. I hesitated, but when I saw the location, my stomach sank. The ceremony would be held at the same church where Ethan and I had exchanged our vows. I almost threw the invitation away, but something inside me, a need for closure, compelled me to attend. I had never properly apologized to Ethan, nor had I said goodbye. Now, I had a chance. The church looked almost the same as it had on our wedding day. Stained glass windows, soft candlelight, and the faint scent of aged wood and roses. Every corner seemed to echo with memories of Ethan. I nervously scanned the crowd, torn between hoping and fearing that he might be there. And then I saw him. I felt like a ghost walking through the corridors of my past. Ethan was sitting near the front, looking effortlessly sharp in a dark suit. His hair had more gray in it now, but his posture was still confident. He was speaking to a woman with bright red hair, who laughed at something he said, her hand lightly brushing his arm. A knot of regret and jealousy formed in my chest. Was she the one who had replaced me in his heart? Did she make him happy in a way I never could? I tried to blend into a pew, hoping he wouldn't notice me, but my movement caught his attention. Our eyes met, and for a brief moment, time seemed to freeze. The woman beside him was beautiful, elegant, poised. Everything I felt I wasn't. Ethan's face was unreadable, neither angry nor warm, just quietly recognizing me. I lowered my gaze and focused on the ceremony, struggling with the weight of my emotions. When the vows were exchanged and the reception began, I lingered near the exit, debating whether to leave before the emotions became overwhelming. But fate had other plans. I wanted to speak, to apologize, but the words wouldn't come. I didn't deserve his forgiveness. Clara. I heard his voice softly behind me. I turned to face him. He was just a few steps away, and he looked exactly like the man I had once loved. The pain in my chest was almost unbearable, and my heart raced. Ethan, I managed, my voice trembling. Up close, Ethan looked even more impressive than I remembered. There was a calmness and maturity about him that I envied. He wasn't the same man I had left behind. He had grown stronger, more resilient. He had endured and moved on, while I had been stuck in regret. His tone was polite but distant, as if we were strangers, not two people who had once shared years of love and trust. I wasn't sure it was a good idea to come, I admitted honestly. He nodded slightly, his gaze steady, unreadable. "So, you're well?" I asked, my voice hollow. The apology I couldn't express hung in the air between us. "Therapy helps," he replied coolly. "I'm trying to make sense of everything." "I'm relieved," I said, swallowing hard, trying to keep my composure. "I'm so sorry, Ethan," I whispered, my voice breaking. "I didn't expect you to forgive me, but I needed you to know how deeply sorry I am for ruining the best thing I've ever had. I was selfish, and I wrecked us." Ethan looked at me for a long time. His face softened just a little. "I don't know if I'll ever forgive you, Clara," he said quietly, "but I've made peace with what happened. I had to. It took time, a lot of time. I won't lie and say it didn't hurt like hell, but it's in the past now. I've moved on." His eyes drifted to the woman with red hair, now chatting animatedly near the dance floor. "I found peace," he added. A pang of jealousy hit me, but I pushed it aside. I had no right to feel that way anymore. "I never stopped loving you," I whispered, "but I know I wasn't the person you deserved." For a moment, Ethan's eyes softened, and I glimpsed the man I used to know. But that softness vanished as quickly as it appeared, replaced by something foreign. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Clara," he said calmly. "You deserve that, but it won't be with me." I nodded, tears welling in my eyes as I realized he was right. I had lost him, and no amount of regret could ever make it right.